To go on with even more areas of the government, one of the areas that we're dealing with is the truthers. We've talked about them before, but we want to make sure that you get it clear. We are only guarding the borders of each country with the help of all nations with our border police. We'll use whatever force is needed to keep all activities of another country within its borders. That should reduce the amount of military needs considerably. Here again, we need observers to maintain control over what the military does. Those observers must be accountable to any soldier or accessible to any soldier at all times, watching the activities just as a third man in the police officers group, the legal group of three men. You have observers that are in the military that are involved in keeping the borders locked, if you will, and they're available to any soldier at any time, so that the soldier who is being given a command can complain to them that they don't want to do it, and that they don't think the command's legal, or that kind of thing, which will keep the military, for you're talking about all the countries in the world gathering together and offering military people to this military police to do one thing. They cannot do anything else. They cannot. They're not allowed to do any, because the overchargers will use them to get what they want. No, they can't do that. The only thing they can do is keep all the activities of that country within its borders. So that means no pollution. That means no purchase of guns. That means no, any economic activity they do has got to go through the military, the border police, with like let's just say a room where the person wants to sell cars in that country from the United States, and the person from that country wants to sell raw material, some things that we need to the United States. The negotiations are done in a room with an observer and cameras and so on and so forth. And they make a deal, and they lock to it, and they're allowed to go ahead and do it, do whatever the negotiation is, because not every country has the ability to do everything. But they also have natural resources that maybe another country wants. So here you are, the trades are done in a room, they're monitored, the equipment, the trade material has to go through the military border police. So you got way less material moving between countries. You got tremendous less, because it's too hard. It's too difficult to go through all. You got inspections, you've got okays that you got to get, and so on and so forth. So basically, you might say, limiting trade, limiting the ability of the overchargers to screw other countries. Get right down to it. That's what we're doing. So you have observers that are like the third man in the legal police officers system, state police system, and that third man is observing and recording things and making sure that everything is legal and up to snuff. And one of the things that they have to make themselves available to the soldier on the field, because if the soldier has a complaint, that's where they go. If they have a complaint and the observer hears it, and then they do something wrong, they can't get charged for it, because they told the observer that something's wrong above them, and the order they're getting is not legal, and blah blah blah. It's pretty easy to figure out. You have the congressmen that you have vote for now, and they're your people, not the overchargers. So what they always say is, as you get problems that you think that have to be resolved, let the government resolve them. They're your people. That's settled. There's one more thing that's needed. We have to have our military follow orders, except follow orders, or it will fall apart, and that's obvious. And if your superior gives you an order, you have to obey it, except if you feel that the order is illegal. There must be a method for any soldier to refuse an illegal order, and if not, be punished. I'll read it again. There must be a method for any soldier to refuse an illegal order and not to be punished. He's refusing to do what his commander's telling him, and he's not going to be punished. We can't have that, except in this case. And the exception for it is that he feels that it's not a legal order, and he talks to the observers, and the observers now have a written or recorded piece of information that says that this person disagreed with what it was that he was told to do, and we need to deal with that. And so now you have the observer knowing what's going on, and the observer goes to the person higher up and says, "Why are you giving this order to this soldier? It's illegal." You can see how it works. So if he feels that this thing isn't right, he's got to have a thing to do, but still you have to have order in the terms of the soldier doing what he's told. So what you have is he can go immediately to the observer that's right there and say, "I do not feel that this order is right. I don't think it's illegal." And they say, we've heard your testimony, if you want to call it that, and go back and do what you're told. We'll take care of it. And that's how the system has to be. So the military doesn't fall apart because the people are following orders, but they can protest for a few minutes, and that's the way the game's played there. You have observers that are right there that you complain to, and the top brass are, "Oh, damn, the observer told me I can't do that, and I got caught," and, you can understand how it works. There must be a form that can be brought to a court and used as evidence of the complaint. That ends the person's duty, and he or she must resume the duties following the orders in the normal fashion, because it's up to the observer to take care of the problem. That ends the person's duty, and he must go back, of course, to his normal duties, which immediately sets up the "you will follow my orders," or the army falls apart. So they will follow the orders, but the observer has time to put a stop to something that's illegal. So another place that they're watching, and another place where people trust news, or the government can go and say, "What's going on here?" And the observer is not a general. The observer is just an observer, and he says, "This is what's going on. This is what I was told." You can put an end to it, or add to it, or make it different anyway. So one of the things that the observer is required to do is immediately resolve the situation by going higher up if they have to and saying, "This order is illegal." So you can understand how it works. It isn't the little soldier down in the field that's doing anything other than telling the observer. The observer can go right to the president and say, "We can't have this," and the president might agree. So that's good. We have somebody who can move from one to the other freely, and you have to pay attention to them, because it'll be brought up on court later if they make the wrong decision. And our generals and presidents shouldn't be making wrong decisions. It's something, if we have a law that's being broken, we made the law. It isn't the president. We voted for the president. That's, you get to the point all the time where it's, we did it, and we want it done this way, and you're not doing it this way, you're fired, or at least you're in trouble. So you have the paperwork processed by the observer right away. You have the observer going to the general or the president and saying, "This is wrong." You have the thing resolved before a soldier has to do it. But let's just assume some quick thing, and the soldier had to do it, and you brought him up on charges. And he said, "No. I went to the observers and I said, this is wrong." "Okay, you can go back to your unit. You've done what you had to do. Now we're going to go talk to the guy that's above you." And the observer brings it on up to where it has to be brought up so it's resolved. So you don't have a dictator telling the people that you have to do this and you can't talk back, and that's wrong. That's just the people that are being told that they have to do something have to have a say. So why do all that, they ask? Because the person will be charged for any misconduct if he or she is reported in that misconduct, but still have to follow the orders given. What I mean, you know what they're saying. If you're a boot on the ground and somebody gives you an order, you got to follow it. Now, all of a sudden, they're reporting a misconduct and they're charging you. Come on. You had to follow the order. Well, prove it. See, there we are. Now we have a system where you're proving that you were given an order that was illegal and you didn't want to do it, but hey, you got to do what you're told. So we have a system that works that will put an end to that game. We're looking at a game that isn't good and putting an end to once and for all by the information, which is the cycle that we're in, the information cycle. We give medals of honor to our soldiers for honorable action, and it's time that we did the same for all truthers in the area. All of a sudden, they moved over to the truther. What are they doing? They're saying that the truther, which we beat the hell out of, we allow our government to beat the hell out of now. They serve us at great risk to themselves, and we let those overchargers and the ones that own the military do to those truthers great harm, including death. We let them beat the hell out of the truther because he squealed, and that put in. And if you have a observer that has the truth, all of a sudden the overcharger's game doesn't work. The whistleblowers, as we would call them back then, whistleblowers as we call them, and what happens to those with the courage to do the whistleblowing to help us become ridiculous, become a ridiculous concept pushed by the overchargers to the hilt. What are they saying? Whistleblowers, do something to them. No top government bureaucrat, military brass, corporate pool employee, or non-overcharger wants a whistleblower anywhere near them. Not a nor an overcharger. We don't want, these people that are at the top don't want whistleblowers around them. They have dissed them totally and removed them from the job, eliminated any chance for advancement. And that's one of the little ways they do it that's very effective. And this is true, even kill them and their families. We have been trained to just sit back and let the greedy overchargers get away with that. Look at the name they have given the truthers: whistleblowers, snitch, turncoat, squealer, and on and on. Sounds like some mean old referee is going to shortly do you wrong, and perhaps sounds like a mean old referee who's going to shortly do you wrong, or perhaps a police officer that's going to do you wrong. They are truthers. Some of them are up there with any Medal of Honor soldier in what they do for us. Some are even higher. Some are even higher. You have soldiers defending the country, and they're telling us that some of these truthers do something even higher than that. Do you hear what we're saying? You've been brain garbage dumped, not washed, in so many ways that it's time to come out of your garbage dump and sleep and see what the world actually is. Not a fearful thing, but a wonderful change for the better, much better. Your truthers are the ones most needed and the bravest people in the world. It is time to see them as they really are, and not to see them through some garbage-filled eyes. Who does more for us with just one fearful act of truth-telling? Who does? You can kill 1,000 soldiers of the enemy, and you eliminate them from hurting you, but you might have a truth teller that tells you something that saves millions, or hundreds, thousands, maybe a dirty weapon of mass destruction that they're dealing with. How did telling the truth help thousands of people become a thing of such derision? How did telling the truth help thousands of people become such a thing of derision? It starts at a very low level: squealer, snitch, tattletailer, and the rest. You know them. The little brats with the big mouths that can't be trusted. Thousands of movies and sitcoms show you that people that we're talking about and all their dirty little tricks. Thousands of movies and sitcoms. Do you see what we're saying? Advertising, advertisement, advertisement. Thousands of hours of garbage dumped in your brain while you slept in front of the TV. Now let's get this concept straight so that we all understand. There are two people here. There are the truthers and there are the troublemakers. How do you tell them apart? Truthers equal those who will give you information, helps some or many people see the truth, and helps those people greatly. That's the first test. The second test is troublemakers, those who would tell on others just to get them in trouble and help no one see them but anything but themselves. Helps nobody but themselves. And now you understand the second part. The troublemakers are basically looking to help themselves, and they're not much of a help. They're troublemakers. So what we've got is the truther, who helps many and not necessarily himself, and the troublemaker who's just out there to help himself. And you can call them the way you see them. Now we understand the definition is rather subjective at a small level, but not at all at a national or corporate level. With the products that will hurt many millions of people, how will you know the difference? Go back to the new religion and apply the do unto others rule of honor. We need to honor our truthers, protect them, and reward them. Yes, reward them with honor and lifetime income if that's what's needed. They tell us what is actually happening, and we have a right to know that. The new age of knowledge is upon us, and this is where it starts. The question of truthers gathering illegal information on the government, there's a question about that, and it's illegal. And well, number one, we shouldn't have anywhere near the illegal information held secret by the government. We don't need government hiding information from the public. We're talking about anything except maybe a national secret. And what national secret should we be holding? What are we keeping away from the people and the other governments? Almost all of them are not good. All of them will be not necessarily, because we're not at war with anybody anymore. They've classified things like flying saucers, for instance, just to give you an example. Nothing should be classified. Everything should be available to people. The federal government isn't in a position to judge more than you do. If you're going to have a national secret, it's got to be reviewed by a federal judge, and people trust news investigators, the top ones, the ones that we most trust. Why? Because they have to both okay it. If you can see that it's just a method of getting what you want and hiding it, then we can put an end to that. If the government worker can know that information, the federal judge must make. If the government worker can know that information and a federal judge must okay that information, then no reason why a highly trusted People's Trust News top-line investigator cannot review that information, or know it, if you will, and determine whether it in fact is top secret. So you almost have no top secret information, because what People's Trust reporter is going to say that it's hidden, should be hidden, and why? We got a shot at reviewing even what the People's Trust reporters investigate or make decisions on, and so basically it's going to be the people that make the decision. So the consequences of illegal information gathering in the court of law or on the street will be put to an end if we change the system that we've got, and we don't have hardly any top secret information anymore, and that's the way it should be. It's the information cycle. We should have the cycle. Other people can make decisions. Number one, they're going to change these things. Number one, as we have shown you in the law, and the law will say that any information gained by illegal means must be thrown out of a criminal case. Then any information gathered because they know about the illegal information has to also be thrown out. What they say, they said any information you got because you had illegal information and you used it to find out the second set of information also has to be thrown out. that would be that'll most likely end the case. Will there be criminals getting away with their crime? Only for a very short time. Number two, if we asked to list the illegal means of gathering information, it would take weeks. Instead, we choose to list the places where you can. What are they doing? Oh, right. I happen to know what they're doing here. If you could, it could take weeks to go through. Government can't do this. The government can't do that. So they say instead we choose to list a practice where you can expect to have your words and actions not in any way be used against you, in the home, in a car, in any place where. And this is what we're trying to get across, that you would expect privacy. Those places would be privacy zones, and the law would be protected from it. What did they say? If you expect to be private and they got information somehow, it's illegal. Any place that's expected to be private, you cannot gather information. It's simple as that. It's illegal. When you have illegal information, you cannot use it. Wow. Kind of takes care of a lot of things, doesn't it? You've got street cameras everywhere, and the police are using these cameras. The second they use them illegally, of course, out in public, you're allowed to kind of know what's going on. But let's just say you see through a window into a house with a camera. You can't use it. It's just one of those things that happens. If you can record the person outside the house because he's in a social situation, and it's legal to gather information in a social situation because you'd expect it. But if you track the person for a month and find out he was doing something illegal, finally, they might have a point of saying, I have a right to my privacy. And that's the law says. If it's 12 jurors say that you can expect privacy in that particular situation, that's it. Okay, what about information illegally gained that point to a felony crime or the possibility of a planned felony? If a person is planning or has done something that's a felony, they have voluntarily given up their rights as a citizen of this country. Having voluntarily given up their rights, then the information can be used to stop or arrest that person. It cannot, however, be used against any other person that kind of is around them, if you will, unless they too are planning to commit a felony or have committed a felony in the relation to the first person in the investigation you're doing on him. Number 4, any trouble if caused by the government gathering illegal information would have to be correct. Any trouble, if caused by the government gathering illegal information, would have to be corrected as much as possible by the government. Corrected as much as possible and paid for by the federal government. Any trouble caused by gathering illegal information has to be corrected by the government and paid by the government. And that's what we say all the time. Number 5, any information that's used to give a person problems, if illegal, will be against the law, and no matter who it is, up to including the president, can be brought to trial. So, are we serious? You bet. Number 6, bringing to court of a government official who broke the law. Bring to court a government official who broke the law, that you have to bring him to court. However, any action that led to any non-citizen's arrest and the prosecution using illegal information will be accepted as long as it was then not used to affect any American citizen. Non-citizens would have no right under the law. We will not have foreign citizens using the rights of American citizens to commit crimes against us. Number 9, the end result will be the end of any illegally obtained information, and you know it is, and that's what you want, isn't it? That's the result. That's what's going to be, and that's what we're after. So I'm going to say good. Then we come to world trade, the payment for anything. World trade in relation to the government, the payment for anything exported by this government will be paid for with an electronic pay slip. The exporting company can then use that slip to pay for whatever they want to import from that country, but only that country. The slips cannot be used by another country, but the slip's credit can be sold to anyone in that country that wants to export something into that country. That's designed to make sure that the world trade is a balance of trade. What they're saying is if you want to, say, a country in Africa wants automobiles sold from the United States, they go ahead and sell it. And when they sell it, they have an electronic slip, if you will, in the United States. They have to go to that country in Africa and buy something from that country that they can sell somewhere else that's equal in price. So there's always a balance of trade between the two countries, which is one of the things that we've got to get locked in. Any country that wants to trade with the first country will also use a credit slip method, but the slip will be between those two countries only. So you've got this negotiating electronic slips to balance the trade country by country. You could conceivably have a 3-slip negotiation, but the point is that when you get all done, there's a balanced trade. So that's what we want. The concept is if you don't have enough slips of credit that you cannot buy what it is that you want, we'll call this country number one. That means you have to find someone in your country who can sell to that country number one and get the credit slips. Then you can buy those slips, and then you can afford to do what you want to afford to buy what you want to buy with the slip from that country. The concept is using the credit slips, and you can move them around all you want, but ultimately what happens is if you sell something to another country, you have to buy something back from that country that's equal in price. You or somebody does with your slip. Every transaction will be done at the border with the World Border Police doing the physical movement of the goods in the same place processing the credit slips of transaction. Number 5, obviously nothing will be allowed into or out of the country that might be used as a weapon. No weapons. That's critical. No one will enter a country to change the government in any way. The people who live in that country will be the only ones who will decide what government the people have to live under. There'll be no more busting up of any kind of elected government. The people make the decision inside their government, and you have to stay out. You have to keep your nose out of their business. The choice will be made by whatever means the citizens choose. 2 things. Citizens make up their mind if they want a dictator, they can have a dictator. If they want whatever they want, it's their business. The second thing is no weapons. So you have no guns. You have no mass killings. You have people that might want to use a machete or something like that, but like they said, if you got 10 people in a truck with machetes coming into a camp and you got 1,000 people living in the camp, 1,000 people can and will kill them. They can. Maybe they're afraid to, but that's not our business. It's their business. They can make the laws. They can make blow the truck up, flatten the tires, kill the people. That's not our business. Number 7, because the citizens are making the choice on or are accepting the choice being made, they only help given the country if they need help as natural disaster, non-man-made. The intent is that the people that live in the country will choose how they want to live. The example could be they can choose to populate the country until they reach the borders, but then starve because they cannot step out of the borders. No one can help them, feed them, or any other thing because they have chosen to live that way. What they said, all these do-gooders and all these people that want to help them and help the country, if they decided that there was no population control, then when there are too many people to feed, that's the price they pay. And you have to stay out of it in that country you're talking about. Now there's an exception. What is the exception? There is some natural disaster. Okay, now we can help them. They didn't intend for this to happen, and they, anyway, that's the way it works. No negative anything will pass their borders, the World Border Police will stop any negative thing from moving past the borders, like pollution of water leaving the country, or pollution of water entering the country, or, air. Okay, number 9, all weapons of any size will be removed from every country. The intent is that the people of the country want to change something, they'll be as well armed as the ruling group or army. What they say, they said, if you decide that you want to change the system, what we're dealing with is your force of people. There are no weapons, no tanks, no military weapons of any kind. They'll be taken out of the country, so they're removed, and so the people can make their decisions. Last but for sure not the least, the least reason to make the change, no Rockefeller or Rothschild will ever again look down their nose at you because you'll be making the same income as you. Now they just threw this in. Last but for sure not least, the changes that we're making cause you to lock the income for a year at $400,000. That's for the Rockefellers and Rothschilds too. They won't be looking down the nose at you because they'll be making the same income you will. Just a thing to throw in there. And just as a reminder, they say the amount of money per year that is multiplied by roughly 17 times gives us $400,000 a year. The amount of money per year that a plumber makes, let's say, multiplied 17 times, which is what the president makes, $400,000 a year for his duty. And is there an individual doing anything out there that's worth more than the president of the United States? Then they go to, before the government moves to the World Border Police, they have to have a job for the military personnel affected at the same pay rate as they now have or higher. These people will earn special treatment. What did they say? They said the people that are going to lose their job because of the World Border Police have to have jobs in somewhere equal to the jobs they have now for the years that they've signed up. What did they say? They said if you're making, and maybe they're not making enough to worry about it, and they can just go work at the government job. But let's just say they were a high-level person and they lost their job in the military and they're signed up for 5 years. They get the same pay doing whatever we figure that they do, so that they don't lose anything by the effect of changing it to the World Border Police. And you can understand that that's pretty straightforward.